half of those who make $100,000 a year today, Brian, are living from paycheck to paycheck. Hello.
Wow.
And a third of those who make $250,000 a year today are living from paycheck to paycheck.
If I live from paycheck to paycheck, that means what? That I have no savings? What's that mean, live paycheck to paycheck?
Just about 64% of Americans don't have $400 for an unplanned event.
64% don't have $400 cash.
Let's make it real simple. The majority of Americans, black, white, red, brown, yellow, blue, black, blue, red, doesn't matter where, who, the majority of people listening to your podcast don't have $400 to their name that's not owned by anybody else they can use, and the car breaks down.
Right.
Johnny gets sick. Somebody has to go to the dentist.
Right.
The number one cause of divorce, Brian, money. Number one cause of domestic abuse, money. Number one cause for heart attack. Number one cause for stress, money. I mean, it is at the center of a discussion we're not having.
Welcome to Aggressive Life. This is Brian. Great to have you with me today. You know, two things make for a good podcast. Well, three, actually. One, a half-decent host, whoever it is. And then number two, it is a guest who knows what they're talking about and it's something interesting. And number three, they're a good communicator. If you can find a half-decent host, a subject matter that's well understood and important, and a good communicator, you're going to have a really good podcast. It's really hard for me and Dirt to find someone who hits those final two. Hopefully, I'm half decent as a podcast host, but you got to find subject matter that you want someone knows, and someone's a good communicator. This most recent guy who we're going to have today, John Hope Bryant, he's such a good communicator. I just started talking with him about just all kind of stuff immediately and realized, I probably should go back and give a little intro. So here it is. We already had the conversation, but here's the intro. This is a man who's not just a great communicator, but man, he knows something about money. He's an American entrepreneur, and he's an expert in financial literacies, recognized by Time Magazine as a global leader in closing the racial financial gap. Whether you're white, black, red, green, yellow, whatever you are, I promise you there's something here for you to learn and grow from. I know I was helped amazingly. He's advised presidents and policymakers on both sides of the aisle. He's currently the founder and CEO of Operation Hope, a nonprofit providing financial education and economic empowerment to underserved communities. He comes from a very poor childhood. He's made a lot out of his meager upbringing and is just a stud and has done really, really, really well for himself. Not just financially, but really, really well for all who know him, because he's a leader who's created something of massive value, and it was an aggressive move on his part. So let's jump into it. I'm feeling like I need to have a middle name that's an awesome middle name, like John Hope Bryant. I need I take Brian Hope Tome, Brian Strength Tome, Brian Patience Tome, any of those things.
Are you sure it's not Tomei? By the way, it's not like underground French or something?
No, Tomei would be really cool, except it's, French. The French aren't known for their courage, but that sounds a lot better than tome. It's pretty boring. Boring sound.
Tome is actually very unique. That's what it is. I've never met a tome before.
Well, it's also very confusing. You just think it's a pretty simple name. It's not, because people don't know how to spell it, or they don't know how to say it. I always have to say T-O-M-E, not tone. Tome rhymes with home. Anyway, it's actually appropriate that we're talking, because I just came from a meeting where I was looking at some research of people's perceived needs, like where they're the most frustrated or what's most important to them. And the context of the meeting was, as we were trying to figure out, my day job's a pastor, and trying to figure out what what we should be keeping in mind as we set our preaching calendar for 2025. The number one thing, not even a close number two, number one thing with every category of person that we looked at in terms of what they were most interested is what? What do you think it was, John Hope Bryant?
Money.
Yes, financial security.
Well, that's also what drove the last presidential election. People would just basically voted what they thought were their short-term economic interests from over 10 different groups, probably for the first time since the Civil War. Every group said, I have an interest. It's economic in nature. And so I'm not surprised by your survey. We found that we mapped every zip code in America by credit score, and it is remarkably consistent. When you have 700 credit scores, you have calmness and two-parent households and people using self-determination to guide their lives and more thoughtfulness. And you get out of a 500 credit score neighborhood and you have people living in a surviving mindset. And that's where the crime in the single-parent households are. By the way, black and white, urban and rural, poor whites, poor blacks, same dynamics. So the issue is not white, black, red, brown, or yellow, or red or blue. It's green. So
Green,
yes.
right. Well, is that really different, though? Because I'm thinking back to when Clinton won the decades ago, him and James Carville. James Carville used to keep everybody on the path and just say, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy, stupid. Is it really that it's only this election? It hasn't really been every election? Is it really true that the only way to figure out an American is what's good for me financially?
Well, I think that if you had looked at that same research 5 or 10 years ago, you'd have had a mixed bag of what people thought was most important to them. And economics is always in the top 5 or 10 of those things. What we found, I think, what we're finding now is it's now completely mainstreamed. I mean, when I start talking about financial literacy as a civil rights issue for this generation, I first started talking about this 30 years ago. And people, certainly in the neighborhoods I grew up in, folks just laughed at me. Financial literacy, oh, give me a break. Capitalist, oh, jeez, give me a break. Here comes John again. Now it's like, yo, man, what's up with that financial literacy stuff? Talk to me. This is like bread and water. This is like breathing. And as people, as you well know, the Bible talks about money more than it talks about almost anything else. Mentions, I'm sorry. But it's never been, I think a mistake we've made as a society is versus taking our economics and putting it inside of our values. What I'm suggesting is we've taken our values and put it inside of our economics, which is the wrong combination. And so in the short term, that means I can get everybody's attention. You and I can get everybody's attention on this topic. But I don't think it's healthy for the country to have economics driving. And here's a guy who's a financial literacy guy saying, I actually don't think it's healthy to have economics driving.
So that's a pretty interesting thing. You said put our values inside of our finances or our finances inside of our values. Just talk about that demarcation there for a moment.
Who do you want to be when you grow up? President Bill Clinton, you mentioned him, so I'll quote him. In fact, I think he's one of the most effective presidents as an administrator for the nation in the last 50 years. Balanced budgets, had surplus in cash, deficits under control, care for the least of these God's children. But he once said, it's hard to get somebody to agree to the truth when the lie is paying their paycheck. It's hard to get someone to agree to the truth when the lie is paying their paycheck. And I think that what you want is you want people to have a healthy debate about what truth and fairness and human dignity is and what's right and what's wrong. Abraham Lincoln had this battle when he ran for presidency. The Republican Party was actually born as an anti-slavery movement. Most people don't know that. It was literally the platform for the Republican Party in 1840, I believe it was anti-slavery. And Lincoln was moving in that direction, but it wasn't his own platform. But over time, as he was actually president, he actually evolved from saying, if I could have the country enslaved and have peace, I would. If I could have the country free and have peace, I would. He just wanted the Civil War to be over. But at a certain point, he realized that in order for it to be over and for us to have a nation, you actually had to have slavery, which was an economic, by the way, that was about money. Slavery was about money, that it had to end. And in many ways, it was the South resisting Northern economic domination. That was what drove it, because it was a standard of living based on slavery, free labor. And they didn't want to give that up. It was a values conversation, but money trumped. Money overcame values at that time. And so this was a big decision the country had to make in the Civil War, but it was initially about economics and money over everything else. And we've had this, it's not the first time in history this has ever happened. I'm saying it revisits us as a central conversation. I think this goes back to Adam and Eve, but in my mind, this has always been a debate of modern mankind: is, do you want to put your value system inside of your dollar? Your economics, or do you want to put your economics inside of and to nestle it?
Well, I want to get into financial literacy and exactly what financial literacy is and means, but I don't really want to have a political conversation. But it is. We're recording this the day or 2 days after the inauguration, and I'm old enough to remember a bunch of inaugurations. John, Hope, how old are you?
58.
All right, we're the same. Like we're not. I'm 59, so you're just a little youngster.
Well, 58's a new 48.
Oh, I like that. That's true.
You and I look pretty good for our age.
Heck yeah, we do.
We keep ourselves in good spiritual shape.
And your teeth are nicer than mine too. Very, very jealous of those nice white teeth of yours. I got to get in the whitening plan. It's one of my goals for 2025. Dirt, have you ever whitened your teeth?
I never have.
No, you never even heard that is a thing.
I never have. Yeah,
you didn't.
It's not on my radar.
Do you brush your teeth?
I do that.
How often do you brush? How many times a week do you brush your teeth?
Because going to the dentist sucks. It does. So I actually do brush my teeth pretty regularly.
Pretty regularly. How many times a week?
Oh, 7.
Oh, you do? Okay,
yeah.
All right, Dirt. All right, good.
Once a day. What a miracle.
Yeah, I know. If you ever saw Dirt, you would find that's unbelievable.
You're actually doing something for yourself? Wow.
Of course, you're probably using the same toothbrush you just scrape between your toes with. You're probably doing that. What the hell are you wearing Chacos for? It's literally 5 degrees out there, Dirt.
Negative degrees.
Yeah. You have issues. Anyway, it's a long, meandering thing. I remember... Back to politics.
By the way, you just mentioned capitalism. I mean, Derek and the toothbrush. Where'd the toothbrush come from? It came from entrepreneurship. It came from patents. It came from solving a problem. That's what capitalism is. It's solving a problem. I mean, good capitalism is solving a problem where you provide more value than it costs you. You're talking about what he's wearing. You're talking about what he's using on his teeth. I mean, this is
right.
Everything in our lives is really entrepreneurship and the level of free enterprise, a level of capitalism. The question is it good capitalism or is it bad capitalism? And good capitalism is where I benefit and you benefit more. And bad capitalism is where I benefit and you pay a price for it. And do we give or do we get? And I believe you can be a good capitalist. I believe you can do well and do good at the same time. And I think that evolves to all ways of life, including politics.
Yeah, you dropped a number of truth bombs there. That's really good. But I was just thinking about politics and just the state of our country. And all of us seem to be all about money all the time, and that's all that matters, at least what we answer in surveys, and at least how we vote. Is that good or bad, John?
I think that God sits on the throne is my answer. And light defines darkness. And so what I'm saying is that we don't grow in good times. Why would you? You just go and enjoy it. You only grow in bad times. You only grow through legitimate suffering. And sometimes you need to go through something to get to something, to help to redefine who you are, to challenge your values. And I still believe that America, for all our problems, and my second great grandmother and my second great grandfather on my father and my mother's side were enslaved. We talked about briefly slavery, talked about Abraham Lincoln. It's personal to me. I literally can go back within 4 generations, and see slavery. And so we're not perfect, but we are still the light on the hill for the rest of the world, which is why China talks mess about us and Russia talks mess about us, but all the Chinese rich people and the Russian rich people want to come here and invest in America. We're the flight to quality. So we have got to get it right. We've got to get it. We've got to sort out our problems and come out the other end where light still prevails. And I believe that you got to go through something to test your value system and to redefine what those values are for a new generation. And I think that if you go far enough to the North Pole, Brian, you end up south. So we've been pushing this envelope of how far can selfish behavior, pure selfish, me. I'm tired of talking about me. Now you talk about me. To rationalize, to tell rational lies. We've been pushing this, I think, to new definitions.
I like that. Rational lies. That's good. Rational lies.
Rational lies to tell rational lies. And we've been pushing these narratives to new levels of ridiculousness. And so now it's excuse my French, it's come to Jesus time. It's okay, let's now.
Well, hold on. That's excuse my French, come to Jesus time?
Well, I didn't mean that.
That's excuse my French. I'm waiting like, all right, John's going to get spicy here. Come to Jesus time is now like, excuse my French? Okay, that's the kind of world we're living in right now. Okay, John, go ahead, keep going.
I am saying it is a time you're going to hit a wall. You're going to have to pivot. That's what I meant by come to Jesus time. I think the pandemic was a Noah's Ark moment. I mean, we don't have time for this conversation really to go deep, but I do believe that we are shepherds. I believe that we are a generation that's going to have to make decisions for generations, and so you're going to have extremes in that environment. You're going to have extremes, and you have to make a decision and a choice. Are we about me in a short term, or are we about we? And right now, you've got. And look, he's our president, and I've served 3 presidents from both parties. I've been honored by 5, and I've known 9. He's our president. We should want him to be successful. I want him to be successul because if he fails, we fail.
Of course,
right?
Yes,
if he loses, we lose.
Yes.
So economically, I want him to be successful. We are the largest economy in the world, the sole superpower in the world. You can't root against your president, he or she, and expect for that to work out very well. It's now up to him. He said, I'll fix it. Well, he's got to go fix it. I mean, it, to me, is not a very, this has actually become one of the cleaner conversations, the easier conversations to have this presidency, because you've got the Supreme Court, arguably, you've got in support, you've got the White House, you've got the Senate, you've got the House of Representatives, you had a majority vote, it's undisputed, you had Electoral College. There's no more nemesis. There's no more dramatic arguments. There's no more, because a lot of this was entertainment, right? People they were bored, they were depressed, they wanted to be entertained. And he is a fantastic entertainer.
That he is. Yes.
A fantastic marketer, right? Okay, but the game is over, you won it. Now, you said you're gonna fix it, go fix it. And I think this within 2 years, you'll know whether it worked out or not. Within 2 years.
Yeah.
And this is not China. This is not Russia. We're not a dictatorship. We're not whatever people may. This is a very messy democracy, and people will show you how they feel about you pretty quickly. And so I wish him well. And there are some things he's talking about that makes a lot of sense. There are other things that are interesting. And I wrote a piece in Time Magazine and Fortune that said there are not enough white men. and I meant it. I mean, like, we need more white men. More white men needed. And my point was, if you want to disband this and disband that, DEI is horrible. Okay, I think DEI actually was designed horribly, actually. Get rid of it, fine. But 40% of this country is black and brown, whether you like it or not. And within 10 years, it's going to be a majority of minorities, whether you like it or not. Right.
Yep.
I like math. It doesn't have an opinion.
Yep.
There's just not enough college-educated, successful white men to drive GDP economics for the next 20 or 30 years.
White women, there's plenty of white women who are college-educated and going up, 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 which is wonderful. But you're right. Men are not well.
Yeah, but if you think about some of the political messaging, to your point about politics, certainly in the last 4 years, a lot of it was around males, and specifically white males, and whether they are being disenfranchised and taken advantage of, whether it's unfair, whatever the language is. The point is, it was designed to get them engaged. And all I'm saying is, if you go far enough in the North Pole, you end up south. As I said earlier, what I'm saying is if I said, okay, every white man, you're just in charge. You get all the jobs, you get all the opportunity, and all the minorities go sit down somewhere. The economy would fail. There's just not enough of them. You need everybody. For the first time in history, Brian, in American history, demographics are actually destiny, and demographics now require that we all get along. Because in 30 years, if we don't get along, we will not be the leader of the free world. We will not be the biggest economy in the world. We will not be the sole superpower in the world. We will be speaking Mandarin, Chinese, within 30 years. Because you can't, a house divided cannot stand. It's mathematical. It's also spiritual. So in 1950, America was 90% white. 1950, not 1850, 90% white. Okay? Today, it's a mixed bag. It's global gumbo. And we need to teach people at the bottom how they can come up to the top. Or put another way, my rich white friends need my poor black and brown friends to do better, if only to stay rich and white. Or take the race out of it. My rich friends need my poor friends to do better, if only to stay rich. The color is now green, going back to your point about economics. But what kind of green is the question we need to ask? Is it green by any measure? Do we want economic success short term by no matter what? This is the question we will have to answer in our lifetime. And the presidency, I think, has evolved increasingly to a discussion about money, 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 money.
Money.
Money, my money. And that, I think, in and of itself, as a sole discussion, is a failure. I think I'm tired of talking about me. Now you talk about me. Well, that doesn't work very well, except for the person being talked about, and it's not sustainable either. So I'm really actually quite optimistic. There's never been a leader in the history of the world, Brian. There's never been a group of leaders in the history of the world, of bad people, that's ever, and I mean bad by objective standards, not by subjective standards, that's ever succeeded long term. They make it 5 years, 10 years, whatever, never 50. Never 25 or 50 years where a group of bad people actually succeed. Ultimately, society says, never mind. So, and they get back to these core values that we started talking about earlier. And I think that you can do well and do good at the same time. I can succeed by helping you succeed.
So, John, when you talk about financial literacy, we're talking about some really good stuff. I'm enjoying the conversation. But when you talk about financial literacy, are you talking about things that people need to know to thrive personally, economically, budgets, that sort of stuff? Or are you talking about macroeconomic systems that we've got to be aware of? What's your passion behind financial literacy?
I'm saying financial literacy is the language of money. I'm saying that financial literacy is the thing that you're not talking about that's driving almost every decision. If your day is not about God or love, your day is about money. From the time you wake up to the time you go to bed at night. And when your sleep also, to be truth, is also money. You're not sleeping on a government-issued pillow. You're sleeping on a pillow you bought. You're sleeping on sheets that you bought. You're sleeping with heat, hopefully, that you have, that you pay for. It's not government-issued. The phone you're using to listen to this podcast is not government-issued. It's all around you, but no one understands it. How do you have an economy that's, listen now, the biggest economy in the world, almost $30 trillion. It's a quarter of the world economy. We're only 350 million people in America in a world of 8 billion. It's amazing, this little country that we're just killing it. Only 30 million businesses, and yet we're killing it in the world. We're driving AI discussions. We're driving internet conversations. We're driving GDP conversations, But 70%, Brian, of the biggest economy in the world is consumer spending. That's you and me and the listeners of your podcast going to lunch, going to breakfast, putting gas in their car, paying for rent, going to restaurants. But 70% of Americans are living from paycheck to paycheck. 70% of the economy's consumer spending. 70% of Americans, not black people, not brown people, not poor people. By the way, the number one group of poor people in this country are poor whites, which is a little known fact, by the way. But it is 70% of this country are living from paycheck to paycheck. And now, the reason I think it's increasingly mainstreaming and why I think it's also the center of the political discussion is that half of those who make $100,000 a year today, Brian, are living from paycheck to paycheck. Hello.
Wow.
And a third of those who make $250,000 a year, because you have a high net worth, you have a diverse listenership, but a lot of them are very educated and do very well. So let me see if I get a church of what's happening now and get them some amens going privately in their cars as they're listening to this. A third of those who make $250,000 a year today are living from paycheck to paycheck.
And describe these are phenomenal stats. John,
if you're living in New York City and make $100,000 a year, it feels like $39,000.
So if I live from paycheck to paycheck, that means what? That I have no savings? What's that mean? Live paycheck to paycheck?
Just about 64% of Americans don't have $400 for an unplanned event. I don't mean money on your credit card. That's not money. Money on your credit card is not money. That's called debt, right? It's short-term consumer debt. I mean money that you can access that you own in your
64% don't have $400 cash.
Then let's make it real simple. The majority of Americans, black, white, red, brown, yellow, blue, black, blue, red, doesn't matter where, who, the majority of people listening to your podcast don't have $400 to their name that's not owned by anybody else they can use, and the car breaks down.
Right.
Johnny gets sick. Somebody has to go to the dentist.
Right.
So I believe that financial literacy is the civil rights issue of this generation. I believe that is as important as the right to vote. I believe it's driving voter decisions. I believe that it's the number one cause of divorce, Brian, money. Number one cause of domestic abuse, money. Number one cause for a heart attack. Number one cause for stress, money. I mean, it is at the center of a discussion we're not having. How did Abraham Lincoln get assassinated? He created a freedmen's bank, chartered to teach free slaves about money. That was March 3rd, 1865. And in order to give blacks the free enterprise experience so that they could have 40 acres and a mule, remember that 40 acres and a mule, that came January, February, March, 1865. January was the Field Action 15 that gave them 40 acres. Next month came the mule. This was not good land. It was on the beach, which is not a great place in 1865 to put seeds, but that's fine for agriculture. 40 acres, mule, bank, January, February, March, 1865. He's killed in April. January, land, February, mule, March, bank, April, assassination. The bank fails. Of course it fails. It had no leadership. It was right across the street from the White House. I actually got the White House to rename that building, the Freedmen's Bank building. I think I'm the only American citizen ever to trigger the renaming of a building on the White House campus to remind America of this unfinished business. So why are blacks at the bottom of the economic pyramid, even though when the rules are published and the playing field is level, like sports and arts, entertainment, faith, politics, we succeed because we were never taught capitalism. Why are poor whites at the bottom of the economic pyramid? If everything's about race, if it's all about race, then all whites should be rich whites and all blacks should be poor blacks. But why is it that the largest population of poverty is actually white poverty? Because they didn't get the memo either. Poor whites were brought here as indentured servants, little known fact. Blacks and whites in the 1600s actually were friends. They worked together as indentured servants. Slavery came out of this. Again, we don't have time for this conversation, but it was about the green. Overseers manipulated poor whites to be against their black brothers and sisters who were poor, and we still have that same crazy debate today. So you have Native American Indians never got the memo on economics. Largest alcoholism rate in the country. Number one group dying, white, high school educated white males. That's opioid addiction. That's really lost hope. It's lost economics. Poor whites never got the memo on economics. One could argue they were just now riding at the ballot box, by the way, because they're so frustrated. Black people riot in the streets when they're frustrated. Dr. King said that rioting is a voice of the unseen and the unheard. And then you have blacks, not black Caribbeans, not black Africans who got the memo on money, black African Americans who did not get the memo on money. These three groups, as an example, left behind economically. Isn't that interesting? So
what's on the memo? What's on the memo?
No, that is the memo. We never got the memo.
I know. We never got the memo. If they got the memo and read it, tell me what is on the memo. You said capitalism. Give us, what's the few sentences?
You are human capital. Let's start there. Stop fighting it. I hate capitalism. Okay, well, capitalism and democracy are horrible systems, except for every other system, right? So life's messy. There is no perfect, right? Just get in there and make it work and make it better, make it useful. But you are human capital. You are trading your talents for a paycheck at the lowest level of risk, and you're trading your talents, your gifts through business and entrepreneurship for higher rewards at the higher level of economics. But it's all a version of capitalism and using human capital to trade for a income or an opportunity. So let's stop fighting it. Embrace free enterprise. Understand you are human capital. Understand that you are God's gift and there are fingerprints of the unique ones in the world. Understand that you got to have really these 5 pillars of success. As much education as you can shove down your throat. This is from my book, Up From Nothing, The Memo, and now my new book, Financial Literacy for All. You got to have as much education shoved down your throat. You've got to understand how financial literacy works, how money works in a world that is run with money. Andrew Young said, who was on that balcony with Dr. King, who was assassinated, to live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the very definition of slavery. It's what you don't know that's killing you, but you think you know. And that is really financial literacy in a nutshell. It's what you don't know that you don't know, but you think you know. You've been bamboozled. You've been tricked. You've been fooled. That's a Malcolm X quote. But you think that you understand it, but somebody else is playing you. So as much education as you can have. Financial literacy, family structure and resiliency. I love whenever I see you market it, you have your family around you. Family structure and resiliency. What were blacks denied in slavery? Family structure and resiliency, education, financial literacy. So far, 3 for 3. Self-esteem and confidence. Those are 2 different things. Confidence comes from competence. If you're good at something, your engineer is very good at what he does. I saw him prepping for this interview. So he's got confidence because he's competent. But that doesn't mean he's got self-esteem. That doesn't mean that you and I have self-esteem. Self-esteem is how I esteem myself. So if I don't like me, I'm not going to like you. Here comes back to politics now again. If I don't feel good about me, I'm not going to feel good about you. If I don't respect me, don't expect me to respect you. If I don't love me, I don't have a clue how to love you. Here comes the values again. If I don't have a purpose in my life, I'll make your life a living hell. Whatever goes around, comes around, give me, forget you. Okay, then that people don't understand how the system actually works and that we're actually better together. But you have to have self-esteem to love somebody else, to care somebody else, to believe. You have to esteem yourself because you can give only what you've got. Hurt people.
Yeah, love others as you love yourself means you got to love yourself or you can't love others, right?
So and then the last piece and by the way, you and I didn't talk before this. It's amazing how we're just on the same page because we're built the same way. Our mom and dad gave us the same tools to succeed. These 5 pillars of success. And the last one is role models and environment. You model what you see. Why do kids in urban communities want to be rap stars, drug dealers, and athletes? They're not dumb and they're not stupid. They're brilliant. They're modeling what they see. We need to give them something different to see. That's why I got a financial literacy course when I was 9 years old and changed my life. It was a white banker who came in my classroom and changed my life. So these 5 pillars, right, of success, if you have 5 of them, you're going to kill it in this world. You're going to absolutely slay it. You're going to be very successful. If you have 4 of these things, you're going to be at least high middle class, right? If you have 3 of these things, you'll be working class but successful. If you have 3 or less of these things, you're teetering on failure. You're in a surviving mindset. So you have a surviving mindset, a thriving mindset, a winning mindset. These are the things I put in my book, Up From Nothing. And then Financial Literacy for All is basically me trying to give, which is a bestseller now, the toolbox for people to actually take their life back with the fundamentals that no one ever taught you. I can't be broke and still have checks left. Well, that's a middle class white household, that the kids who say, well, Dad, of course I've got money. I just go to the ATM machine, which means all the money. ATM. I mean, so we're not, this is an issue with this, Brian, this is everybody's issue. Everybody listening to this, their heads nodding. because whoever you are, you've got these issues at your house. First generation makes it. Second generation spends it. These are people who are successful. Third generation loses it. If you don't have financial literacy, first generation makes it. Second generation spends it. Third generation loses it. And billionaires, this has happened to billionaires. They've gone broke.
Right.
So this is everybody's issue. And if we can get the credit score, this is going to sound really crazy, but if all we did was just raise credit scores 100 points across this country, you stabilize the country.
How would you do that, though? That's
what I do at Operation Hope. I'm the largest financial literacy coaching organization in America. Like you, I built a bunch of nonprofits. I built for-profits. I'm an up from nothing guy. I literally came from the bottom quartile of the poorest of the poor in this country to the top 1% in one generation. And I believe kindness is so gangster, which is a shirt I'm wearing. And I believe you can do things decently and still aspire successfully. Yep. And I've used financial literacy as a mechanism to do this. And I have 400 employees and $100 million of annual revenue in my companies and all that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing I do is Operation Hope, which is coaching people to get their credit score up, the debt down, the savings up, so the bank can say yes. The bank is not racist. The bank wants their loan money. The bank wants their money back. Yeah. So we now know how banking works, and we can. One big thing is, anybody listening to this, if you haven't checked your credit score in 2 years, there's a great chance there's an error on your credit report. The law states, civil rights. The law states that if the credit bureaus can't confirm that issue that you're looking at, they believe is an error, they can't confirm it's yours, they must remove it. That's the law. 3 credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. We write letters to those credit bureaus on behalf of Brian's podcast listener who says, well, I did that. I checked my credit, and that's not mine. Once they remove it, your credit pops 30 points. So if you were at 605, you're at 635. If you're at 570, you're now at 600. Your self-esteem rises. Your shoulders come back. You're now winning in the game. We can get your credit score up, 30 points 54 points in 6 months. That changes your life. We get the debt down by $3,800, get the savings up by $1,200, get your credit score up by 30 to 50 to 100 points. Now you're in the game.
Right.
You got more education, you've got more stability, you've got better access to credit, you got access to cheaper credit. The bank is saying yes for home ownership. You're getting out of that apartment building, you're starting a business.
Yeah. Well, this is really solid, John. Thanks. I'm curious with your description of the financial woes of our country. I'll just go through those stats again. 70% paycheck to paycheck, meaning we couldn't write a $400 check to buy new tires on our car, which that'd be like one tire on my truck. That is one half of everybody who makes $100K a year is paycheck to paycheck. A third who are $250 a year. That is crazy. If you looked at those numbers, John, say back in 1950, 1970, 1990, inflation adjusted dollars, have we always been that bad? My pictures we haven't always been that bad. Or has it been a slow downhill churn? Is this a new thing in the last 10 years? What's the historicity of this?
Man, you're asking some great questions. And by the way, all this tracks the political environment and the optimism, or lack thereof, the confidence of the nation. So in the few minutes we have left, let me see if I can do this quickly. You had a lot of consternation in the country in the early 20th century because you did not have financial stability. You did not have a solid middle class. You had people at the bottom, you had people at the top, by the way, of all races. And you have these immigrants coming in then from Europe, by the way, that people at the top didn't like. They called it Polish and Italian and not so Jewish people, not so nice names, right? But that was economic in nature. They thought they were crowding out their jobs and taking their opportunity. Hello, does this sound familiar?
Right. Yeah, it's not a skin tone thing. It's we're always afraid of someone from the outside coming in.
It's a green tone thing. Yeah. It's cash. And then you have the Great Depression. That really broke up the spirit of the country and depressed us. And then you had depression. And then you had the thing that broke it up actually was World War II, oddly enough, because that spurred economic development all these manufacturers from automobiles, whatever, shifted to manufacturing for the government. And that then spurred economic activity. You had the Marshall Plan after the Civil War, where we vowed to rebuild the countries that had bombed us. By the way, that's a moral act. That was a moral and a values act that actually was good economics. We rebuilt Germany. We rebuilt Japan. We rebuilt France. The biggest aid in the world record is to France, who are our biggest trading partners today.
Right.
European powers in Asia, where we helped to get them back on their feet. And that created the GI Bill, which was as much education you can shove down your throat, college for everybody. It was a chance for you to become a homeowner as a GI. That's government aid for somebody to become a homeowner. It was a skill for trade for the future. That created what we now call the second iteration of middle class. First one was Henry Ford, paying his workers enough to buy the automobile they were making. Then the second iteration really of a growth middle class and a huge surge in higher education came after World War II. And that's where middle class values and incomes surged. And then in 1972, benefiting from blacks who were promised affirmative action and didn't get it, Johnson, Kennedy, Dr. King. So Nixon was a political reaction. Hello, does it look familiar? Sound familiar? And he becomes president, and he embraces affirmative action, but then rejects the theory that it should be for blacks. Does it sound familiar? Mm-hmm. Hello? And who benefited from that? The courts decided that women would, really, white women, which by the way, fine with me. 1972, a woman could not have the woman did not have a credit card in 1972, Brian. A woman couldn't get a bank account in 1974, not 1874. A white woman could not get a credit card, could not get a loan without her husband co-signing it. A third of the economy today are women. So we found that diversity and inclusion was actually good for business. It was actually good for values, good for morals. So, by the way, white high school educated men in the Industrial Revolution, which was most of the 20th century, you could have a house, a boat, a vacation, a pickup truck, and a good life. So they were not resentful. Well, those people have the government, the Industrial Revolution fell away from them. Technology took over. No one gave them a business plan for the rest of their life. They're resentful. They're upset. Hello, look at the voting patterns today. So we have lost our business plan. We've lost our mojo, and now it's middle class is paying for less. It now used to be one household, one person in the household making a living for middle class. Now it requires two income earners in that same household to sustain a middle class lifestyle. And they're stressed out, they're depressed, they got too much month in their money and not enough time. And they're angry and they're frustrated and they're looking for somebody to be responsible for their problems. Somebody's got to be responsible for their pain, right? And what we have got to do is reimagine our business plan to get a software upgrade in our lives and reset again and grow GDP. Once again, grow the table. You can't cut it up in little pieces. Again, a certain philosophy says, let's go back to when things were great. When were things great? I miss that era. Supposedly, we're always romantic about the past. This society needs all of us, white men, brown men, black men, tan, whatever the color is. We need people who produce grit and women. And so, but we're at this inflection point where, because of the pandemic in particular, you have, again, financial literacy. People say, oh, the president, this or that, you ruin my way of life, everything costs more. No, that was the pandemic. And when you pour $9 trillion of government spending, which was to save the economy, by the way, and was bipartisan, if you pour $9 trillion of government spending on any government apparatus, there's never been $1 trillion in stimulus in the history of the world, Brian, in no government. We had $9 trillion. What's that going to do? Inflate. Did everybody forget you got a check? You got 2 checks, I think maybe 3. You personally got to check. Where do you think that money came from? You probably need to pay, somebody's going to pay it back. That's going to inflate costs. We're lucky we don't have 12% inflation. We're lucky we don't have 15% unemployment. I mean, just the opposite of complaining. We need to be thanking God that we are the biggest economy, the sole superpower in the world, and we're arguing about 3 or 4% inflation and 3 or 4 or 5% unemployment rate and this and that. We are blessed. Our problems are high class problems. We are blessed. We are blessed, and we need to learn to again be a blessing to others. And so I just think that we're at this point where we've got to once again grow up and get the memo, once again, commit to be up from nothing, get our financial literacy, stop being resentful of other people because they're killing it and we're not. Stop hating rich people. We've been here before. The standard of living has decreased. Inflation, cost of living has increased. Your dollar pays less, buys less, and people are feeling that. And the president's not going to fix it. I'll just say that right now. Anybody telling you, I'll fix it. No, you can't. You can't. This is structural. And the only way we're going to fix this is all of us leaning in together and deciding we're on the same team. It's not a short-term fix. I can give you a sugar high. I can give the rich people a tax break. I'm rich. We're both doing very well, Brian. We can get a tax break. We probably will get one. And they'll give you 12 months, 15 months of a sugar high. Everything gets juiced, like getting a shot. It's like an addict getting a shot. You'll get it temporarily. You'll feel great. And then in 15 months, you'll get a deficit pop. It's going to hit you over the head for the whole country. Because that does not just trickle down naturally to the poor, the working class. The tax breaks do not by them in of themselves, and we've proven that, by the way, expand the economy. Has been absolutely proven. So we need our investments in the nation that pay a return on that investment. And the biggest investment we have are our people.
So the average person to get to beyond paycheck to paycheck. We look at those 5 things, really, really good. The average person right now is not going to be able to move those 5 things in the next month. What's the right next step for someone to get beyond paycheck to paycheck? What's just start here, boom, do this.
First of all, mindset. All poverty other than sustenance poverty, roof over your head, food on the table, health care, all of the poverty is mindset. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. Is the glass half full or is the glass half empty? Depends who's looking at the glass. If you think that you're going to fail, you're going to fail. If you think that there's no way out, you're done. The devil's got you, right? He loves you. When I get up in the morning, when you get up in the morning, the devil says, "Oh crap, he's up." Right? They hate us because we see opportunity. So first of all, you have to see yourself as a land and a place of opportunity. Number 2, look around you. All right? Do you work for an employer? Go check to see if they have a 401k plan. If they do, sign up today. Every employer should do an opt-out versus opt-in. If that's free money, it's free money. They're giving you money. For every dollar you pay in, they're giving you $1. Take as much as you can and max that out. Go buy a house. If you're renting, and I'm a landlord, I'm telling you, I'm one of the biggest landlords in America. I'm the biggest who's African-American minority in the country for single-family rental homes, the company I created, the Promise Homes Company. And I'm telling you, don't rent from me forever. I want you to go from rent to own. As soon as you can. The number one way you build wealth in America is home ownership. Buy a house. The whole tax policy is designed around to benefit home ownership. You get appreciation, depreciation benefit, and you get to write off the mortgages. I want you to take $1 and what you make, and you didn't make $1, you made 90 cents. I want you to save 10 cents. That just saving 10 cents, you won't miss it. If you save 10 cents, it'll change your mentality. It'll change how you see yourself. You're not just living to pay your bills. You're paying yourself along the way. Change your mindset. If you're listening to this and or anybody you know makes less than $60,000 a year, go claim the Earned Income Tax Credit, EITC. If you're making $38,000 a year in a small town, you have 3 children, the government owes you, not a handout, it's a tax break for working. The government owes you about $7,000 cash. So actually, with yes, damn. The church was happening now. What have you talking? What have you done for me lately? Yeah, damn. You listen to this. You make $38,000 a year. You've never heard of EITC. You know nothing what we're talking about. You've got 3 children. The government now owes you $7,000 times 3. That's almost $20,000. That's more money you're going to see at one time in your life. Take that money, pay off that car note. Pay off the car loan. Send your kid to college, which will advance them. Put a down payment on a house in your neighborhood for $20,000 against a $100,000 house. It'll appreciate. Do something that creates wealth. You make money during the day, you build wealth in your sleep. 2 different things. Start a business. Take that money and go start a business. You are a self-creation machine. There are things you can do right now. Get your credit score up. That'll change your life. If you stop paying 18% for a car loan. Look, you wouldn't buy a Mercedes off a used car dealership lot. And you have a tow up credit. You tow up from the flow up, and you're paying 18%. It's not a Mercedes. It's Mercedes payments. Pay off that 18%. Get your credit score up and refinance that at 9%. Your life is going to change. Your payment's going to be cut in half. There are things you can do. Go to my people at Operation Hope. I'm going to give you a $1,000 scholarship for coaching because they listen to this program. To go get $1,000. Use that $1,000 coaching scholarship from John Hope Bryant. Say I sent you at Operation Hope, and they're going to get your credit score up, your debt down, your savings up within 2 or 3 months. And they're going to tell you all kind of benefits that you didn't know that you had, that you even qualified for. And we got to stop demonizing other people. Stop demonizing the government. All these states that say they hate the government, they're largely subsidized by transfer payments from the government. Florida, the tax-free state, oh, we don't need anybody. There's no income tax. We're tax-free. California needs to be like Florida. Really? 33% of all the income for the state of Florida are government transfer payments. I can go at this all day and all night. We got to stop this lie. Stop blaming other people. Stop being angry for a living. Stop being pissed off for a living. Stop being frustrated for a living. And find the light. Again, yes, you can change your life in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. You can. I did.
All right, you're dropping great bombs. But then I got to ask another question. Dirt's saying, hey, we're out of time. I know we are. But just go back. 33% are government transfer payments to Florida. You're saying that just old people there are drawing their Social Security.
No. I mean direct payments from this. I mean a combination of direct payments from again, I just love this, right? I like math that doesn't have an opinion. The numbers don't lie. People lie. Numbers don't. 33% of the annual GDP, gross domestic product for the great state of Florida, who hates the government supposedly, are from the government. A range of payments for bridges, for this, it's not just individuals. I'm talking money that got transferred to the state. A lot of, what's the poorest state in America? Mississippi. What's one that, well, you know what the biggest source of income? The federal government, right? Alabama, that's one of the lowest credit score states in the poorest in the nation. Again, a lot of these states that it just seems like they're just anger, right? They've rejected diversity, rejected the future, in my opinion, and they rejected the government. I don't know, whatever. Has it worked? My only question is, has it worked economically? No. Look, Atlanta, where I'm sitting at right now, it's the 10th largest economy in the entire country, Brian. Not the 10th largest city. It's the city of Atlanta, stuck in the middle of the South, where I'm at right now, is the 10th largest economy in the entire country and would be one of the biggest countries in the world. What does it embrace? Diversity, inclusion. We're all better together. And this city has a bigger economy than 3 states surrounding it combined. Take 3 states, put it together, put it inside of the city of Atlanta, and our economy is still bigger. I just think that, common sense ain't so common. Yeah. and so we got to stop the lies, stop the drama, right? Realize we all need each other. California, people, and God bless everybody who's dealing with these fires in California. I'm from California. It's the biggest economy in the whole country. Number one. Mm-hmm. And New York is number 2. And by the way, Atlanta is the biggest economy in the traditional South, the only international city in the South, the biggest airport in the world, business airport in the world. What do they have in common? They've embraced the future. They're diverse and they're inclusive. The most profitable companies in in America, are diverse and inclusive. Most profitable, wealthiest, diverse and inclusive. The regions, diverse and inclusive. I'm just saying that including everybody, excluding no one, unless they're bad people or evil people, including everybody, it's actually good business. Demonizing is bad business, but in the short term, it makes you feel better. So I want people listening to this to know that they have choices other than just blaming somebody else. They can empower their own life. Yeah. They can take a step right now. I'm a coach for every one of the 100,000 Delta employees. We give them Delta gives them $1,000 emergency savings account when they go through my coaching program. And the number of people who come up to me on Delta planes crying, employees, this $1,000 and our coaching changed their life, I can't even count.
Very good.
$1,000, Brian.
Wow. John Hope Bryant. Really, I'm really bummed I'm on a time crunch now. I am, right? I got to. Yeah. Sheesh.
Maybe we can do a part 2.
Maybe. John Hope Bryant, great stuff. Tell us, where can we go to learn more about you? Where can we learn more about your product? Where can we go? Just give us an advertisement.
Yeah, go to operationhope.org or download the Hope and Hand app on your Android or Apple phone and get our free financial coaching and counseling. I'll give you a $1,000 free scholarship for a year's worth of counseling to start. I raise $75 million a year, so it costs you nothing to get coaching and counseling. Go to Operation Hope, get my book, Financial Literacy for All, which is the #1 in business finance in the country. It's been that way for the last year. Have a financial really a financial lesson, a financial meeting with your family once a week, using that book as sort of a scratch note. Listen to my podcast, listen to Brian's for sure. I'll tell all my viewers and listeners of my 3 million followers to listen to you. Listen to my podcast, Money and Wealth, which is every week, where it's my ministry of finance. Understand that you can succeed, and these are tools to help you succeed. You're not in this by yourself. We're rooting for you. Brian and I are rooting for you, and we love you.
JHB, gonna be coming back, or at least invited back, unless I've annoyed you so much you're not going to come back again. This has been great, man. Thank you.
Kindness is so gangster.
It's really rare to have somebody. Dirt and I struggle. It's hard finding people who have something to talk about and are really good communicators. Check. I mean, it's really, you have some people really smart, got some stuff to talk about, but they can't communicate. You got some people who can communicate, but there's nothing interesting coming out of them you want to talk about. So, but you check both those boxes, John. Fantastic. Hey, there's something here for you to do. Something here for you to do. John was just dropping stuff like accidental crumbs. You could pick up one of those and start eating them right now to have $400 additional dollars. You could choose to have a different shift in your perspective on something. Boy, that would be crazy. Actually change my mind instead of toe the line on whatever party thinking you have right now. There's something here for you. It's called The Aggressive Life, because we don't want to just hear interesting things. We want to do aggressive things. So let's do it. We'll see you next time on The Aggressive Life.
Got it. Thanks, John.
Damn!
Dude!
It
wasn't boring.
Come on! I walk into these things. That was freaking awesome.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and more at briantome.com. My new book, a 60-day devotional called The 5 Marks for Man, 60 Days to a Powerful Life, along with all the other books in the 5 Marks library, are open right now on Amazon. Be sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Then send an email to that's dirt at briantome.com to get a free Aggressive Life sticker. Find more on Instagram at briantome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.